Hello and welcome to this lecture, which will look at how to configure your buckets to monitor specific events that may occur within them. Any events which are recorded can then be sent to either an SNS topic, an SQS queue, or a Lambda function. And selecting the events tile from the bucket properties screen enables you to configure which events are to be monitored. Firstly, you need to give your event a name, followed by the required events that you want to monitor. And as you can see, there is quite a long list that can be monitored and captured within your bucket, covering new objects, object removals, restores, RRS, and replication events. The prefix element allows you to specify the events to be captured based on the object's prefix within the bucket. For example, you could capture all put, copy, and post events for objects with a prefix of logs. The suffix provides a similar function to the prefix. It allows you to apply the event captures to objects with a certain suffix. For example, all objects with a JPG file extension. The send to component determines where your events notifications will be sent, either to an SNS topic, an SQS queue, or a Lambda function. Depending on the existing configurations of your destination of event notifications, permissions will need to be granted to your SNS topic, SQS queue, or Lambda function to enable S3 to publish events to them. The application of permissions to each of these services sits outside of this course. For more information on policies and these services, please see the existing content that we have in our library. I will now provide a quick demonstration on configuring a bucket for event notifications using a new SNS topic with the appropriate policy attached. I will also show the notification that is triggered via email. Okay, so I've logged into my AWS account and I'm at the front screen. And firstly, I want to go to SNS to create a new topic. So once at the dashboard, if I click on Topics and then Create Topic, I just give this a name of S3 Put Event. I'm just going to accept the rest of the defaults, and then I'm going to select Create Topic. So now I have my S3 Put Event notification here. Now I'm going to create a subscription to this topic. So if I click on Create Subscription, now I want an email to be sent to myself whenever something is pushed to this topic. I'll accept the other defaults, click on Create Subscription. I will then get an email asking me to subscribe to this topic, so I'm just going to go ahead and subscribe to that now. You can see here, this is the topic, and all I need to do is click on Confirm Subscription. Okay, so that's done. Now if I go back to SNS, I need to edit the access policy of this topic. So if I select the topic again, and then go to Edit, and then down to Access Policy, this is the default access policy in there at the moment. So I'm just going to delete that, and I'm going to paste in my own policy. Now what this policy does, it allows the Amazon S3 principal to publish to this SNS topic. Now those permissions are needed, so when I configure events on my S3 bucket, S3 has the permissions to then publish whatever events I select to this Amazon SNS topic. So if I go ahead and click on Save Changes. Okay, so now I'm going to go over to S3. Now I have a bucket down here called Stuart's Demo Bucket, so I'm going to select that, and we can see this bucket is empty. If we go across to Properties, and then down to Events. Now here I'm going to add a notification, and I want to be notified for every put event. So I'm just going to call this my put event, and the events here, I'm going to select the put event. Now if I scroll down, I'm not going to add a prefix or suffix. On the send to, I'm going to select SNS topic, and then I'm going to select my new topic that I just created, the S3 put event. So what will happen now is every time I put an object into this bucket, a notification will be sent to SNS on this topic, and because I subscribed to that topic with my email address, I will get an email notification about that. So let's try this. So if I click on save, and if I now add something to this bucket, I'll just select a file and then say upload. So I've now put an object in that bucket. So I now should get an email notifying me about that. So if I go across to my emails, I can see here that I've had an email notification, and it gives me a lot of information here about the event, the source, the region, the time, the event name. And also down here, we can see the ARN of the bucket that it went to, and also the file name as well. So that's how you create events for your buckets, and also how you can push those notifications out to an SNS topic.